When everything is ripped out of your life and the rug is pulled out from under you, you have to face the facts of the relationship. And I needed to choose myself. And that fire is what caused me to go into the dark night of the soul.
Welcome to Women We Should Know with international speaker, mindset reset mentor, author, and your host, Leslie Michaels. With audacious honesty and candor, the Women We Should Know podcast presents the wisdom and life-empowering insights of women who are the embodiments of innovation and social evolution. Please join Leslie as she shares potent conversations that will inspire your personal and professional evolutions.
Welcome back to Women We Should Know. I am so excited to have you with us today. As many of you are already aware, Women We Should Know was founded on the intention of bringing to you the voices, the audacity, the innovation of women whose names you might previously have not known, but I suspect you are excited to meet them now. We as women have entered our time. This is the time of the woman. Everyone from the person on the street to the Dalai Lama is saying that. This is our turn. This is our time. There is a call that can be heard around the world for women to rise to their greatest potential because we are needed. These are challenging times, and women have the creativity, the resilience, the tenacity to create new resolutions, to create new ways of addressing each other, the world, business, social justice, and in the case today, even our children, our next generations of children. We have the most wonderful woman for you today. Angela Legh. She grew up in San Francisco. She had an alcoholic father and an angelic mother. That's an interesting juxtaposition. And they both had a profound impact on her life. Her father taught her that the behaviors of others made her a powerless victim. Her mother taught her to be loving to everyone, including those who hurt you. Her family home was destroyed by fire when she was only 6 years old. And she grew up to marry an emotionally abusive man. She stayed in that marriage for 32 years because she didn't want to hurt him. She didn't have the internal strength to leave yet. That's not where the story ends. Fire and water intruded on her life again with the 2017 Tubbs wildfire in Northern California, which reduced her home to ash. Second fire. And for the second time, she almost drowned. On this occasion, in the Atlantic off the coast of Portugal. The return of these earlier losses forced Angela to examine everything about herself, her life, everything that she considered true. She is now an author and self-development mentor. Her children's book series, The Bella Santini Chronicles, has received high praise and is known for helping children learn how to manage their emotions. Now, there's an important class that isn't in our schools. Her online course, Live, Love, Laugh, gives adults in-depth insights how to step out of victimhood and access your inner joy. I am so excited that she has agreed to be with us today. Hello, Angela. How are you today?
I am so good. How are you?
I am great. I am great, and I am so excited that you are here to talk with us. There are so many things. I read your book yesterday.
Oh, did you?
Yes, I wanted to wait till the last minute so it'd be really fresh in my mind. So I sat down on a Sunday afternoon and read the book, but we're going to come to that in a minute. First, I have this little tradition. I always like to ask my guests, what is not in your bio that you would enjoy people knowing about you?
I guess it's that I have a deep connection with angels, and the books, I don't feel like I wrote them. I have a sense that I put my hands on the keyboard and angels would feed the information to my hands. And I know this because there are times when I would go back and read something I wrote and think, where did that come from? I didn't even know that. So
That's fascinating. That is fascinating to know as we go into this conversation. Let's start with how you got to the book. Okay.
Mhm.
Your house burned down when you were 6.
Yeah.
And then because of the absence of houses at that time, because so many had burned, you were fostered out, so to speak.
Mhm.
Even though it was friends and family and neighbors, there was an experience. And
Yeah.
how does that come into play in your life now and in the work you do now?
Well, I think that post fire, so when I was 5 or 6 years old, one morning I'm sitting at the kitchen table coloring. It's maybe 6 a.m. and my mom's getting ready to go to work. And I look over my sister's shoulder and I say, why is there a merry-go-round in our laundry room? Because there were all these colors dancing around, and it turned out it was the flames. My sister, being old enough, ran and grabbed mom because she figured out what it was, and mom got us all out. But the aftermath was, as you said, my parents couldn't find housing. And so all of us kids were farmed out to different people. And my oldest sister and I were sent to a family friend of my father's, someone we didn't know. So it was as good as being in foster care, basically,
Right.
because after a big trauma, ripped away from the family, sent somewhere, you don't know what's going on. There's no crisis counseling available. You don't even know to ask for crisis counseling.
Did the term even exist then?
I don't think so.
No.
Yeah, I don't
Yeah.
think so.
Yeah.
There were a lot of feelings that I had no idea how to deal with at that young age. And I'm pretty sure that that was the beginning of I'm not lovable. I'm
Makes
not
sense.
worthy. Yeah.
Makes sense.
Yeah. And I know that my dad's behavior, um, I'm in a part of my journey where I don't really lay blame or label people anymore.
Right.
And so I don't want to cast aspersions and defile his memory. But what I can say is that he, in his youth, was subject to judgment and degradation by his parents. And so he grew up with a feeling of not worthy, failure, and he held on to those feelings. It became something that controlled his life.
Well,
But
as we've come to understand, that is the way of it.
it is.
Our parents received it from their parents or some other adult figure, and et cetera, all the way down the genetic line.
Exactly.
And it rather seems that we are the women who came into this life to break the tradition in many ways.
I think so. And it's a hard journey to come to the realization that he escaped into alcohol because of what happened to him and the decisions he made as a child. And that led to what I experienced, which was emotional, physical, and though I have no memories of it, I have a sense that there were sexual abuses.
Mhm.
And so all of that made me into someone who repressed anger because he was angry and I wasn't going to be like him. But
Of course
also,
not. You were going to emulate your angelic mother.
that's what I did. Yeah.
Yes.
And there was also the unworthiness.
Right.
And what that led me into was a marriage to an angry man,
Of course.
of course. And so what I did, having repressed anger, that made me in judgment of anyone who was angry. And lo and behold, I have a toxic marriage now, or, did at the time, because my repression of anger. Equally, it was my ex-husband's, like my father, he grasped onto anger, which he grew up with, and he made that who he was and a big control of his life.
So you go from anger to anger,
Mhm.
and then you go from, this is just impossible for me to comprehend what you must have felt like when you went from your home burning down to decades later, your home burning down and almost drowning to decades later, almost drowning. What
Yes.
did that feel like? That had to be, I don't even want
When
to
I
put
was,
words into your mouth. What
yeah,
did
when
that
I
feel
was
like?
5 or 6, my mom took us to Santa Cruz, California, and I was waiting and I kind of went off by myself and I stepped one step and it was like a big drop off a shelf. And I had no idea that so here I am underwater, don't really know how to swim, and I'm I'm struggling. I'm trying to figure out how to get myself out, and my foot hit that shelf that I had been on, and somehow I got my other foot on it and I managed to crawl myself back up. And then I went running to mom crying and she didn't have any idea what happened.
Of course you did.
And when I was 6, so I had the water incident and then the fire. And that was not really instructive to me at the time.
How
It
much
had,
is instructive to us at 6?
well, yeah, it depends on how awake we are. So um I was in this marriage of 32 years, and from time to time I was strongly inclined to leave, but my empathic ways would not allow me to hurt him. And so I would swallow my own needs and stay in the marriage. So it had to happen. I had to have the second fire. And that fire is what caused me to go into the dark night of the soul, where I questioned everything. The way I say is that when everything is ripped out of your life and the rug is pulled out from under you, and all you have is the relationship, you have to face the facts of the relationship. And for me, the facts were that I couldn't change him. There was nothing I could do to make it better. It was not going to change. And I needed to choose myself. So leaving the marriage was my first act of self-love.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
Congratulations. And now you can say that as, oh, yes, leaving the marriage was my first act of self-love. But with the programming you had adopted and claimed as your own, that couldn't have been the easiest thing to do.
It was the hardest thing I've ever done in my life. The guilt that I had over hurting him, choosing me. My kids weren't talking to me at the time, so I felt abandoned by them.
Which kind of takes you back into the emotions of being fostering, wouldn't it?
A little bit, yeah.
Yes.
Well, so many of the triggers in our existence are really rooted back in something that happened to us when we were children.
Yeah, the repetitive cycles.
It's a repetitive cycle, absolutely. And by this time, I was wise enough to realize that the trigger of my children not talking to me was really being, rooted in that rejection, what I saw as a rejection of me as a child.
Right, right.
So at least at this point in my life, I was able to really dive into that feeling, which is what I teach, and really allow it to flow and transmute it. And so now I can speak about it without being triggered by it.
Exactly. And I know when I look around the world and I speak with women and men for that matter, but more so women, they tend to share in a very candid way from their own experience. Their own experience becomes the light that they can hold up to speak to other women. If this light is your shade, come with me. I know how to get out of this box.
You don't have to get into the box, because I can tell you my experience, and you have the opportunity to make choices with that knowledge.
Exactly. So how did you end up? Okay, we've gone through the fire and then being abandoned again, this time by your children, and then you almost drowned off the coast of Portugal.
Yes. Well, so what happened is I decided to live the life that I wanted to live. And I signed up for this adventure thing called Mind Valley A Fest and went to Portugal. And there I met a lot of really wonderful, loving people and made hundreds of new friends. And a part of these friends, just this one couple decided to invite me to go swimming. It was very hot in Portugal. And so we went past the caution sign. We
Oh, well, now that was not a red flag.
No. We climbed down
literally
the cliff, and we dropped the last 6 feet into the ocean. And we started swimming. And The path to this cave meant we had to swim out and around a rock and then back towards the cave. We made it into the cave. And we're thinking, okay, the tide is supposed to start lowering. So the swim back should be somewhat easier, less waves. On the way back, we waited an hour. We thought, oh my gosh, the waves are too big. We can't go. Let's wait. And finally, we said, we've got to get back. There's a party tonight. We have to meet the bus.
Priorities.
Right. This is really important to us. So we set out. And as I get around the rock, I realize how tired I really am. And at that moment, a wave washed over my head and I'm floundering. And the thought crosses, this is how people drown. And at that moment, my friend who had reached the shallow part she saw me struggling and she said, Angie, when the wave crashes towards you, just float. And then when the water's coming the other way, swim like hell. And I was like, that is such a wonderful just metaphor for life.
Yes, it is.
And so what happened after that was I wrote a chapter in a women's empowerment book. It's called Ignite Your Adventurous Spirit. And I wrote a chapter about the power of surrender, because I had learned in this ocean environment that we put so much effort into resisting what is so.
Yes.
And when you can just let go and let what is so be, and then put all your effort into moving forward when the tide is with you, it is such powerful.
Okay, so you pen this chapter in this book.
Mm-hmm.
Where did Bella Santini come in?
It's really funny because I started writing a fairy tale for my friend's daughter, who was 6 years old at the time. While I was in the marriage, it was before the fire. And then the fire happened and that computer was, along with everything, was destroyed.
So how did you get from walking out the door
Mm-hmm.
with nothing but the clothes on your back, still married, to Portugal? Of course, you almost drowned there, but you didn't. So now
it
it's
was
an
a nice
amusing
place.
story, to actually birthing Bella.
So I started writing this fairy tale once again, and it just took on its own life. And as I said in the beginning, it wasn't really me sitting down and saying, okay, Bella, this is going to happen to Bella, and that's going to happen to Bella, and we're going to go down this path. I would write, sit down and type, and the story would just come out.
And how beautifully it did come out.
Aw, thank you.
It just beautiful. In addition to the fact that little Bella, here she is a wonderful, wonderful story for children. I read a lot of heavy stuff.
Yeah.
As do many of my friends and associates. And I found it a beautiful, gentle reminder of things I know, even as a deep into adulting woman. It's wonderfully written. And the themes that you brought forward for kids in a way that is digestible in the way kids do. You know, if we tell them something, forget it. But if we can slide it in the window or the back door, all of a sudden it's valuable. And between the sibling rivalry and the messages that bullies never prosper, and the control issues, and the power of friendship and the power of having your own team around you.
Thank you. The power of combined intent.
Yes.
Something not taught in school.
Again,
but
yes.
It's very powerful. And one of the things that's really near and dear to my heart is the back of the book, the letter from Queen Tatiana to parents, because we're not really given an instruction manual when we have a child. And had I known when my son was a baby what I know now, his life could have been a lot different.
One of the ideas that the book brought forward just in the course of the tale was something that I know I've been in conversations about for 30 years with educators I've known, with parents I've known. Of course, I have no kids, but with parents I've known. And it's something that a few of the charter schools, the Steiner schools, some of the others have started employing, which is really helping each individual kid do what they love doing and helping them really excel and expand and develop that which is natural to them, instead of trying to put them into little cardboard boxes. And it's just now, 30, 40 years later, becoming an idea that is growing legs. And I was excited to see that taking place within the context of this story.
Thank you. It's near and dear to my heart. I think even in business, there is a movement towards working your employees to their strengths.
Yes. The late Tony Hsieh, who died way too young, was a great pioneer in American business in terms of that exact principle. The other idea that I was really excited to see brought forward in the context of the characters, because this is something we see with young kids, and we can probably even remember back to when we were in school, and that is obsession confused with love.
Yeah, and thank you for bringing that up. It's there is a character in the book named Novak.
Yes.
And his father is the role of the Fae in the world, which old fairy tales totally got wrong, is that they are emissaries of love. But in the story, the world is in a state of flux, and some energies have entered that are not love. And Novak's father has been infected by this not love. What he it's almost reminiscent of Hitler. On the other hand, he's got a mother who wants to make her son feel better, and so she smothers him with her little baby, and she basically smothers him, which is as if there's this pendulum of father bringing bad feelings, mother bringing good feelings. But at the
well, now that would have no reminiscence to your own childhood, would it?
No, none of the story describes what I
No, none of it.
Not at all.
It's fascinating to me how those of us who create draw on our own experiences. And You did a beautiful job with bringing your family into the story, and even your own story, because there's a lot in there about discovering your inner strength by being still. You really expertly showed how Bella was able to progress from being afraid to trusting herself, being afraid to knowing that I have no clue how this is going to work out, but it will. And what
Trusting the
wonderful
process.
messages to bring to children.
Very, very true. And, you know, even in my awakened place right now, there are still times when I question the process. It's like, but I don't want to be in this situation.
Oh, I wouldn't know anything about that.
Right. None of us would.
No. One of the things that I was really excited to see were the book club questions, which don't have to be book club questions. Those can just be the questions that the parents work with to play. It really has the opportunity to bring it home and subtly remind the parents of these things that we may have picked up and then dropped, or maybe didn't even pick up along the way yet.
And it's so well, the Talmud says we don't see the world as it is, we see it as we are.
That's right.
And so when you think about it, parents are seeing the world through their filters,
Yes.
which they were handed by their parents.
And on and on and on
and on.
Right.
And kids they start off no filters, and slowly we build as the parents and the teachers and the ministers and all these people tell them how life is from their filter.
Yes.
Then the kid starts getting these filters. But when they're first born, they have no filters.
Right.
So those book club questions are really about, they're called book club, but they're about parents and children getting into conversations. When in the letter from Queen Tatiana to the parents, I suggest that the parents become very vulnerable when they're in those book club questions, and they share with the children their feelings from when they were a kid. Because a lot of parents, they don't want to seem weak. They don't want to have their kids see them as anything but the strong and all-knowing parent. But when you can be vulnerable and talk about these hard things from how you felt about them as an adult, you're tapping into your childhood feelings. That opens up a trust and an ability to have conversations that won't happen if you have that wall between you and the child.
Exactly.
So it's really about bringing the hearts of the child to the parent and vice versa through these conversations where everybody's open and vulnerable about their feelings.
What a novel idea. Parents being vulnerable with their kids. So often parents will tell the stories of when they were young, but it's, I was this survivor in the middle of this horrible situation. They don't ever talk about the feelings that they had. Mm-hmm. So this invitation you give to them to share from that feeling place is really powerful. I see that being very powerful for the parents who play with that and that really embrace that and play it out with their kids. Turn it into something that is intentional connectivity. So bravo for you for putting that opportunity in here. Now, I noticed at the end of the book that I got to read the beginning of book 2. This is going to be a series.
This is a series. I have 5 written. Book 2 should hit the market in about a month or 2.
Oh, I'm looking forward to my copy.
The seeds that are planted in these books can help kids, their parents, and grandparents face the world we're in from a place of resilience, from a place of balance. I truly believe the ability to face our difficult feelings and know how to process and manage them is key to avoiding suicide and substance abuse and self-harming.
Being able to have the potential to change those statistics is the engagement of the parent with the kid in the learning process and with the self-expression process.
Absolutely. And that is why I am so passionate about getting these books out. And I do, I don't know, 3 podcasts a week. And I'm advertising on Google, and I'm doing everything that I can to get them in the hands of kids. But I decided that I needed to launch a Kickstarter so that I can reach a wider audience, because, frankly, I don't have funds to do advertising right now. And I am so passionate about reaching this audience and helping kids and helping their parents and just creating this change in society where instead of choosing to escape a painful feeling, people actually say, I'm going to take a breath. I'm going to face this feeling, and I'm going to be better for it.
For all of you who are out there who are saying, okay, this sounds a little interesting, I'd like to know more about this book, know that I am going to do for you what I always do for you. I am going to have Angela's URL, her contact information, and all the other information she would like to share in terms of points of access, all right there in the program notes. So just go to the website and read the program notes, like, subscribe, and comment. And as always, the comments that you send to Women We Should Know, we will respond to you. We want to hear what you want to hear. And for those comments that you'd like to leave for the guest, as always, we will send those to Angela so that she can respond to you directly. So just know that all of this information that we're discussing is going to be out there, and we are supporting Angela's passion to get this out into the schools, into a broader audience of not just kids, but families and parents and everywhere that kids go. One of the things that just touched my heart, Angela, when I started reading the book, not too far in, is your quote from Mr. Rogers. Okay, there are a lot of us. Actually, Mr. Rogers was I was a little ahead of Mr. Rogers' time. I didn't watch as much of it, but love isn't a state of perfect caring. It's an active noun, like struggle. To love someone is to strive to accept that person exactly the way that person is, right here and now. And it's a beautiful summation of all of the multi-textured messages that you are delivering through this story of this one little wayward girl.
Yeah, girl on an adventure. is
Girl
what it
on
turned
a
out.
wild, audacious adventure. I want to thank you for being a wonderful guest today. I want to thank you for writing these tales for children in a way that can seep into their understanding, that can become part of their fundamental ethos, and to write it in a way that is in absolutely no way uninteresting to adults. As I said, I'm ready to read the rest of them. And for the changes that you are committed to making for the betterment of all of us. So thank you for all of this.
Leslie, and thank you. This has been such a joyful conversation, and I think your interview style really pulled out of me things that I might not have said. And so, gosh, I am so appreciative of you.
Oh, thank you, my dear. So, as we come to the end of another episode of Women We Should Know, I trust that you received nuggets, inspiration, and insights from what Angela shared about her story, the courageous vulnerability she shared through her story, and that you are excited to check out Bella Santini. This is an adorable child in a wonderfully written story. When you go to the podcast notes, when you go to the program notes, again, click, subscribe, and share a comment. We would love to know what you want to know. So going forward with your day, I just want to remind you, you truly are stronger and wiser than you know.
Thanks for tuning in, everyone. We hope you received inspiration for expanding your own social innovation and influence. Help us inspire others by sharing this episode and leaving your comments over at lesliemichaels.com/podcast. For more tips, insights, and support in creating a fully audacious, professional, and personal lifestyle you love, visit our Women We Should Know community on Facebook.